Hi! What's up, everyone? I'm messy. I am incredibly messy, but I'm back. It has been a year since my last official video. And I just wanted to catch you guys up on everything that had been going on. Got a lot to get into, and so I hope you're ready. Someone here wants to say hi.
Hi.
This is Mela. She's 8 now. Can you believe 8 years old? Can you believe that? 8 years old. We got a lot to get into. So to start, it's early to mid-September. You know, it's just a normal day.
And it's 2025.
So, yeah. 2024, September. And it's just a normal day. You know, I'm taking my dog out to go to the bathroom. I come back up. My wife tells me that she got an email from our property management saying that, you know, they're not going to renew our lease because we've been behind on paying rent too much. So we had until the next month to vacate the premises. And you know, it's, what made it worse is that, you know, they weren't breaching the lease on their end because, you know, our lease has expired. So, you know, what can you do? So October 2nd comes along. Our first official day of being homeless. And first thing that happens is my wife gives me and my brother a ride down to a homeless shelter that is in literally a whole nother city. We're miles away from each other. I had to go up through a long period of time where I could not physically see my own daughter. And it sucked. The loneliness was rough. And then, you know, the whole trying to even just live in this homeless shelter was just as rough, if not more. You know, because, you know, you get into this homeless shelter, and you know they have these beds that are basically just steel plates with a gym mat on it, and how do you even try to get comfortable on that?
I didn't have good sleep the last few nights I was there because the bed is so hard. Kind of.
Indeed, it was very hard. And it was, and you know, the people at homeless shelters are just vile people. You know, they'll there was one day there that where me and my brother were there, and we had to break up a fight between these two guys that people were getting knives out. They were getting their knives out to hurt each other over a disagreement involving dogs. That's how insane it got there. People were willing to kill each other over dogs. Not everyone was like that. But the fact that people like that actually exist in this world, it's mind-boggling. So there were times when there'd be a lot of medical emergencies at this shelter. Ambulances were there constantly, police were there constantly. The few good people that were there, made it tolerable to live there. But for the most part, it was just not worth it. We would have to wait outside in the cold just to be able to go in to get something to eat. And they have timelines there, regulations there. If you're not in line to get a ticket for a bed, you don't sleep. It was rough. We were there for 3 days at first. 3 days. And we came back. My wife picked us up and brought us back to our hometown, where we slept outside in the grass right by a church, and it was more comfortable. Sleeping in the grass was more comfortable. Outside. And then the next morning, because it was a Sunday, the church was opening, and they invited us in to come in and get warm. And this church, it just welcomed us with open arms. They embraced us, pretty much. They treated us like family, even though we just gotten there. And they got us some suitcases with the little wheels to cart our things around in, and I just realized my head tilts when I talk. I can't seem to keep my head straight. I don't get that. Anyway. So this church, they got us some suitcases. They got us some sleeping bags. They got us some thermal blankets to help keep us warm at night. And for the next couple of weeks after that, sleeping was not an issue. It was not an issue, because we would roll our sleeping bags out. And we would stuff some clothes. We would stuff some clothes into the bag that the sleeping bags came in, to create like makeshift pillows. And we would lay down on top of our sleeping bags. We would use the thermal blankets to cover ourselves up with, and we would use our little pillows to rest our heads on. Sleep was not really that much of an issue. And we would go to different parts of the city. And the people in the city were very gracious. They a lot of people would stop and give us money or food. We weren't begging for anything. We weren't begging for anything, but people would still give. And it shows how amazing people can be when a situation is put before them. Be like, I could do some good for those people right there. And it's given me a new perspective on that whole thing, because the generosity that people had for us when we were homeless, I want to start giving that back. And once I finally get like a good source of income to where, you know, I can get, you know, essentials taken care of and be able to be in a good spot for my family and all that, I'm going to start, you know, giving back to people who need it. And because, you know, it's, you know, the whole thing with being homeless has given me a new lease on life, a new viewpoint, and it's been amazing. And so to continue with the story, you know, we're able to sleep well at night, but then one night, October 23rd, I believe it was, we were, well, at least I was asleep. My brother was at a nearby Maverick shop going to the bathroom, and suddenly this cop approaches me, tells me that, you know, this whole us sleeping on the grass, just sleeping anywhere in public, no longer allowed. You know, we're writing you a citation. I gave a brief pause so that way you guys can process that information. But basically this cop said to me that it is illegal to be homeless in the city of Logan, Utah. How do you even go about regulating that? So we get cited. You know, this goes on both me and my brother's record for 7 years that we're criminal trespassers, all because we're sleeping on the grass. So, with that information, we need to find somewhere new to sleep at, you know, someplace new, somewhere where cops won't think to look for us. So there's this little food pantry that's right next to the church that, you know, gave us those sleeping bags and all that. Which, you know, speaking of which, that church we became full active members of. It's called the Alpine Church in Logan, Utah, and they are just an amazing group of people. They have been so good to us over the last year, and you know, it's worth noting. You know, if you live in the Logan area and you don't go to that church, you know, please, you know, show them some love, show them some support. So anyway, we decided to spend the next night at this food pantry. You know, there's no grass, nothing, nowhere comfortable for us to kind of like lay down. But you know, we have to settle somewhere. So we find this little patch of cement on the back that's not like really connected to any kind of entrances or anything, and we set up right there. And it's rough, but you know, I'm somehow able to get comfortable enough to where I can fall asleep, and I can get through the night. So I'm lying there, I'm sleeping, I'm trying to sleep. I'm trying to fall asleep, and then I suddenly start feeling this little wetness, hit my cheek. And so, it starts happening a little bit more, and so I'm thinking, oh, we're getting a little bit of rain. It's not really too much that it's keeping me uncomfortable. In fact, that's the opposite. It's hitting my face enough to where it's cooling me. I like the cold. I like the cold, so I feel this coolness hit my face, and it's actually helping me get more comfortable. But as time goes on, it gets just more and more and more, just hitting me in the face, and so I decided to finally just sit up, and I pull my hat up from over my eyes, and I look, and I see that it's snowing in the middle of October. Snowing. Really?
Seriously?
It's late September today. We have the AC going. This was literally like less than a month later, and we got this snowstorm, and it's not just like a little. We're just gonna drizzle some flakes here. Something. No, this snowstorm lasted 8 hours. 8 hours, and we were out in it the whole time. My feet were so cold, I thought my toes would fall off. I was curled up next to the church door because I was trying to find the driest place that I could think of, so that I could just try to keep from frostbite overtaking me, because it felt like that's what was going to happen. Finally the leader of the church came and opened the door, let us in. He allowed us to take off our socks and our shoes and put them by the heater to let them dry, and got us some coffees to help warm us up. And once again, this church comes to save the day. The next day, after the snow had cleared and we got a little bit better of a night of sleep, we got approved. Me and my brother, we got approved for hotel vouchers. So we were allowed to stay at a comfortable hotel for a week, and that was so good. And it was during this time that they were showing the live election results. Trump winning the presidency, and the next few nights were great. But then we had to leave again. And we had to leave the hotel and go right back out to the streets, and oh my God, it was agonizing. It was just pure pain, trying to sleep on the ground again. I don't think I slept a wink that night. And then, amazingly, the very next day, we were on the bus, and we met a stranger. Her name was Angie. she took us in. Told us that we could stay for the night on the condition that I cooked dinner for her. So yeah, I happily accepted that, because I love cooking. So she took us in. I cooked a nice little spaghetti dinner, and she loved it so much. She wanted us to stay more. She was like, you keep making me good food like this. You guys can stay here as long as you want. And it was great. We finally had a bit of a home. We were there for like almost 2 weeks. But then her father found out that these two homeless strangers that he never met before are staying at his daughter's place, and he's like, you need to get rid of them. Despite the fact that she's well over 18, she's like, he's like, you need to get rid of them or I'm cutting you out of the family. So what can she do? We don't. She didn't want to kick us out, but she kind of had no choice. So, it's at that time of the year now where there's more active snow on the ground. So, what's the only thing that we can do? Back to the homeless shelter. So we go back to the homeless shelter. Granted, it was a lot easier the second time around because we had gotten so used to sleeping in the elements, sleeping outside on hard concrete ground, and it's like the steel plates with the gym mats felt like home to us. It was the most comforting thing that we had in a long time. We got to meet more people, got to know more people. We learned of this gas station that was really close by. We could go and get food and drinks there whenever we wanted to. We weren't restricted to just the homeless shelter. We could go around anywhere we want to. And despite the fact that it was easier for us going into it the second time, we still didn't feel safe. Not even close. And after a little bit of time had passed, we discovered that in order to get into this an apartment that we were trying to sign up for, we had to go back to Logan and get some paperwork signed. So my wife has a friend who at the time was living in Ogden, so, or at least close to it. So he came down, picked us up, and brought us back up here to Logan. And we signed the paperwork. And it was at this time that we discovered that there was a temporary homeless shelter opened up here in Logan called the Warming Center. So we're like, let's give that a try. So we decided to head over there and stayed there for a night, and what a world of difference. What a world of difference. Because the homeless people here in Logan, despite being homeless, are still a lot more civil than the homeless people down in Ogden. So we're like, you know what, this works for us. You know, they're open every night for the winter season, and you know it's close to Alpine Church, so we can, you know, it's walking distance really. So yeah, we decided to stay there. Now the thing is that the warming center though is only accessible at nighttime. So you know we spent our days just kind of go around the city, you know, looking for things to do, trying to pass the time and all that. During this time, I took up a couple of temporary jobs, working as a security guard for USU Aggie games, and you know, while they didn't pay a lot, you know, it was refreshing being able to kind of sort of enjoy the game, you know, after the security gates, you know, it became less busy and all that. We would, like, you know, take turns rotating between, you know, going over and watching the game and coming back to the gate to you know, keep watch. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And so yeah, then there were also a couple of times when, you know, I just had a mental breakdown, would be the best way to put it, and I would end up getting myself checked into the behavioral health unit for rest and just psychological refreshment. And at times, even that was difficult, because there are times when people, when other patients there wouldn't be respectful in groups when it came to my part in it, and so that was also a lot of things I had to deal with. But then we finally applied to you know, like, this apartment complex that we're at, and you know, we had to go through a lot of, like, hurdles, and it was not easy getting this place. It was not easy getting this place. You know, we applied, like, February, I think it was, and there was a lot of documentation that we had to finalize. This waiting period that we had to endure. The whole time, you know, we're spending night after night after night after night at this warming center, which is good. It's good, but you know, it's like it's still just all this time that I'm away from my family. I'm away from the people that I love the most in this world, and it was brutal. You know, just not being able to be with them. I was surviving on a diet of ramen and oatmeal. You know, I'm thankful because I got fed, but you know, it's like I need nourishment. You know, real nourishment. But you know, at the end of the day, though, you know, we finally were able to just seal the lease. When we first walked into our new apartment, I was just overwhelmed with emotion and relief. I sprawled out on the floor of the bedroom, and I just took a deep breath in and a long, drawn out exhale, and I was just like, it's over. From October 2nd, 2024 to April 2nd of this year. The most unforgiving moment of my life, but I've learned a lot about myself through the experience. I've learned that I'm a lot stronger than I ever gave myself credit for. I've learned of a much deeper value of humanity, and I've learned to put my trust in Jesus Christ a lot more, because it was really because of him that me and my brother made it through this whole ordeal. Because my wife and daughter, as much as I was missing them, I knew that they were fine. I knew that they were fine because they were staying with my sister-in-law. I knew that they were being taken care of. As difficult as living with some of her relatives was for her, it definitely beat living on the streets. As for my new streaming schedule, I'm going to be doing my scare streams starting this Thursday, and it's going to be every other Thursday after that, because I have, as unfortunate as it is for all of you to accept, I have a real job. And Thursdays and Sundays are my days off, but I still prefer to stream on Thursdays, because Thursday nights my shifts start later the next day than they do on Sunday. So than they do on the Sunday the following Monday. So I'll be doing my scare streams starting this Thursday and every subsequent Thursday after that. And also I've been able to work things out with my mom. So she's back in our lives. She's gotten a lot better as well, and so I'm happy about that. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys this update. I know that you've been waiting a long time to find out what the heck's going on with me. My Donald Trump hands. But yeah, that's pretty much what's been going on. I've finally got everything back up and going again. I have a job, and I can provide for my family. My wife's in school, and so is our daughter. And so, that's basically how everything's been going. I want to thank you guys for supporting me so much through all this, because I've throughout the last year I've only seen my subscriber count go up, which is amazing. You guys rock. And so yeah, I'll be back to doing streams, and I can't wait to get you guys back on the content train. So until Thursday, guys, take care of yourselves. And remember, Jesus loves you. God bless all of you. Thank you again for the amazing support. And I'll talk to you guys on my stream on Thursday. Take care.